The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, but I need to make change in the agenda and pull the personnel report with addendum from the consent agenda to, we will vote on that after we return from closed session. That's a little crazy today because we haven't, because it's crazy. All right, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda with changes.
So moved.
Thank you. I think that's a move and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we move into the action agenda. The first item is the interim budget resolution for 17-18 with Ms. Frisbee. Are there any questions about the interim budget from the board?
Madam
Hearing
Chair.
none.
I have one, but
Okay,
it's
go ahead.
more a generic question than about this. So we have when you did this memo, you didn't have one. We now have a budget. Just out of curiosity.
Things change, do they not?
Yeah.
Things change by the second in finance this time of year.
This is one of the earlier ones that I remember. When do you think DPI and all that, is that you think that's a September possibly, or more likely October, November?
I was thinking about that on the way down the hall. So we're going to have an ambitious goal to bring you the official budget resolution in September, but you know that's contingent on personnel placements and things like that. So we're going to strive to be here in September,
I was just curious.
but we're covered through November.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
That answered my question.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, now we have budget amendment number 9, which is a walk-in document from Ms. Frisbee. You have that in your packet. Any questions for Ms. Frisbee at this point?
We do apologize that it has to be a walk-in document, but we are right now closing our fiscal year, so it took us till 10 o'clock this morning to prepare. So that's how close. My analogy is that we come to a screeching stop right now, and tomorrow it'll be a burning rubber start. Since
Oh, I noticed
it's the
people,
best way to describe it.
I noticed things changing as I came down the hall, yeah.
Ma'am.
So are there questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
I think that was a first and a second, Ms. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Financial software upgrade. Boy, you are on this agenda today, Ms. Frisbee.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Uh-huh. Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
I do. I have that KISS principle, so I tried to keep my memo one page, but I do want you all to know that, number one, how often does the finance department come and ask for money specifically? Not often. So anyway, with that being said, we are super, super excited about this proposal. As you read in the memo, the current system that we're on is from the 1980s. So with that being said, it's very, very old and antiquated. And this was not a hasty decision. This has been going on for about 18 months. We've been meeting. We've had all the stakeholders at the table to talk about the technology component. All the senior management in finance has been a part of this process. And there are 2 software vendors currently that offer the financial software that we need for that meets DPI's mandates. So one is Link, and then one is the K-12, which we're on right now. So we have seen demonstrations from both vendors, and what this will be doing is taking us up to the cloud, and it will be a Windows-based product, which is, we're so happy about that. So we've been gathering information, we've been analyzing that information. We've had questions and answers from both vendors, and like I said, both vendors came and did a demonstration for us. And if you looked at the spreadsheet, you'll see that the cost for the upgrade was it was just a few $100s different. So we felt like the price is competitive. The reason that we're recommending Link is because they currently have 61 public school districts in North Carolina. Their focus is North Carolina-based, and they're staying on top of the changes and things that are being mandated by DPI. Jatasa, K-12 has merged with Jatasa, and they are serving multiple states. So we kind of felt like their focus might not be North Carolina alone, and each state is different. You know, North Carolina, I'll just say, is very, very unique. So we visited Rowan Salisbury, which did the upgrade probably a year and a half ago to the K-12 cloud version, and we spent the whole day with them. And each component in the finance department shadowed everybody at Rowan Salisbury to see how that was going on. And then just back in May, I sent a team down to Cabarrus County to visit the Link product, and so they were very happy about that. So we're just excited because we feel like it's time to move forward. We're ready to move to a Windows-based product. I am all about improving efficiency and effectiveness, and we are 110% sure that this is going to move us forward. The proposal also includes what we hope is a turnkey operation. There is a cost in there that we're going to provide some equipment to all the schools. So, you know, this is going to be here at Central and all the way out to the school level. So we're just excited. Now, if this is approved, we have penciled in our conversion date to be the first week in October. So, if this is approved.
It's nice that the General Assembly did a budget ahead of time.
It is amazing, but, you know, we've already got meetings scheduled tentatively to talk about this proposal because it's going to be a big change. And we know with change comes a little bit of pushback. But once everybody gets familiar with this and they understand how easy it's going to be to use and that it's a Windows-based product, I think they'll be happy too.
So it's not going to be just at central office, but all the schools, so presumably training will be needed across
Absolutely.
the system, and is that built into this
It is
budget?
built into this price, yes, ma'am.
That's great.
They're going to be with us for at least 2 weeks, and then there's 3 days of training. And they'll be here when we convert. See, we have the hourly payrolls that are on the 15th and the last day of the month, so they'll be here when we actually do our first hourly payroll in October.
So with my reading of these numbers, it seems like it's not only going to bring us into the 21st century, it's also going to save us significant money
Absolutely.
over time.
First year, pretty expensive because of the upgrade, but, and what we're doing is we have a safety net because some of those products that we're currently using, we're going to continue to use until we feel comfortable moving forward completely. But if you look at year 2, year 3, futuristic, absolutely. It will bring a huge cost savings to the district.
Other questions?
In regards to the conversion, and in conversations that you may have had with other schools that have moved to this product, was the conversion seamless? Were there problems? Did they have to build in some workarounds to make the software applicable to North Carolina or your current system? And if so, how much of that has had to occur? And you mentioned training. I'm curious to know how much staff time is going to be required for training. And is this going to be is it a lot of it just going to be you plug it in and it's going to auto-populate the entire system, the new software, so that you're not spending a lot of time of sitting around having people having to do data entry?
Right. Well, what we will have to do if this is approved, from July through October is what we call data cleansing. There'll be some things that we'll have to clean on our AS400 system. And so we're going to start that process immediately, and then that won't impact the schools as much as it will here, and mainly just the finance department. The biggest challenge that we face is that we're one of the few school districts that have that hourly payroll. We pay 2 times enough, but we have talked to all the technology people at Link and everything, and they assure us that there shouldn't be any problem, and they will be there to hold our hand if there are problems. This is one reason why we were kind of waiting for other districts our size to convert so they could iron out the wrinkles, because I didn't want to be the first large district to go. And so, like I said, there's 61 districts that are already on this product right now, and I know that there's 3 more, not counting us, that are going to be converting in the fall. So,
Sure. Dr. Baldwin?
sure.
I would strongly advocate for this approval. I think it's a long time coming, and I would look at this as an investment, a high-quality investment for this system. Year after year, we bring our finance director and her team down. Ever since I've been superintendent, ever since I was associate superintendent, and the recognition, the awards, and it's absolutely amazing when you consider the type of the age of the software that we're working with. And it is about efficiency, but it's more than that. We have talked for years about the need to better communicate between our personnel or human resources and our payroll, and there's a clear reason for that. You've heard me say when over 85% of the operating budget funds are devoted toward human resources, those communications have to be efficient. And I think a good portion of this efficiency is going to include better checks and balances.
Absolutely.
That I think are needed, as well as a better interactions of communications between the various schools to central office and between the departments here at central office. So again, I think those are excellent questions, Mr. Queen, because initially I know that there are going to be some hiccups, there's going to be some challenges, we're going to have to overtrain, but the reality of it is once this is in place, I just think we're going to see tremendous dividends from the efficiency standpoint and the communication standpoint.
Any other questions or comments? I'd entertain a motion.
I have one.
Sure.
For me, the things that with finance always come back to the end of the year, the audit. How does this, it would seem to me it's logical that it's going to help in that process. Was there any input from those folks, and how do you see the benefit as it relates to that part of the process?
They audit vendors or school systems that already have this product, and like I said, it's just going to, right now, for lack of a better word, a lot of our data is piecemealed. We have to go to different places to get things, and sometimes that's frustrating because you've got to make sure you've included all that. But this will definitely eliminate that, and then, but it shouldn't have any impact on that at all because it is DPI approved, and they, the auditors.
Well, I was hoping you were going to say it would have a positive impact.
Oh, it will. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, we're super, super excited. But yes, it will have a positive impact. So, and if we don't do this, we're going to have to do something because our AS400 is dying. The life of that is about 7 years, and it's 7 or 8 years now. So, we're going to have to invest some money regardless of what we do. So, we were just, trying to make things get into the 21st century, so to speak. So, no more green screens.
Thank you.
I'm particularly pleased that 61 systems in the state have already tried this and that glitches have been paid for in other places that perhaps we won't have to do.
Right. And Cabarrus is very comparable in size to us, and they love it. When I didn't get to go with the team that visited because it was right after my surgery, so I couldn't travel, but they were very impressed. So
Good. So we have a motion and a second.
No, we don't.
Do
you
we
don't have
don't?
a
Could we
motion
get one?
I would move that we approve this, that we authorize the execution of the contract.
Thank you. And I have a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, I tell you what.
you have made 21 people very happy today. Thank you so much.
I hope indeed. Next item on the action agenda is the Buncombe Middle School metal roofing Phase 4. Mr. Fear, well, just watch these people after we approve this, watch them exit stage right.
You're gone.
They're gone. So do we have questions for Mr. Fearley regarding this roofing project?
Yes.
Mr. Fearley?
First of all, just a comment, after reading what was in the paper about the River Arts District and the nightmares of not even getting bidders and so forth, I feel like we're doing well, even though we're having to rebid things and so forth. I feel grateful, knock on wood, that we are continuing to at least get folks to bid. So what was not mentioned in this memo, though, is the low bid was $648,000. How does that fit with the budget for this project?
It does work with the budget. Because of the budget challenges and lack of bidders, what we've been doing is including a lot of alternates. So we have a base project, we absolutely have to do this, and then we add alternates, and then we're able to select and the scope of the project to match up with the budget, because it's so unpredictable.
Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
I always worry when we do these metal roofs that the stretching and the, whatever it does when the heat and cold, that we fill in those little holes so that we don't get a leak.
The type of roof we do is not what you're used to seeing on a residence that has exposed fasteners. The fasteners are not exposed. There's a crimping system that it's fastened and secured below the deck. So the real concerns are flashing valleys and places where there's change in plane, but no, we don't have exposed fasteners.
That's good. We did at one of my schools when I first came on the board. We fixed that. So any other questions?
Mr. Fearley, have we used Southern material or metal systems on other projects in the system?
Yeah, they've done quite a bit for us, a lot at Owen Middle School, and they did one phase at Anka. This is the fourth of 6 phases, so they've done at least one phase, maybe 2. And they've been a very reliable, good contractor for us.
Thank you.
Other questions? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Community High School construction project, architect contract assignment for Mr. Fearley. Are there questions from board members concerning that?
I have one, maybe two. Hasn't this happened to us before? What project
Yes,
was
it
that?
seems to be a common trend in Asheville where,
Intermediate school?
yes, Anka Intermediate,
Yeah.
that kind of large, out-of-town regional firms
Good.
gobble up our smaller firms in Asheville, and that's the case here.
And I don't have any memory of problems that went on through that transition there and through the process of completing that school. Am I missing something?
No, just like that project at Anka Intermediate, we've been assured that it's the same people we are dealing with, that we will be dealing with. And we're at kind of a good time. The construction documents are complete. It's out to bid. So it's if there is a good time for this, we're in pretty good shape here.
And we're keeping the construction manager. I would think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think that's the big part of ensuring that we get what we thought we were getting from the beginning. Is the construction
the
manager.
workload is shifting right now from the designer to the construction manager, because it's out to bid, and he is competitively bidding this with the subcontractors and then construction. So the architect, from this point on, is really doing construction observation, clarifications, certifying pay applications, watching after the job. So the bulk of their work is really done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving, community high school is going to be so happy when we get this done. So the next item on the action agenda is the Koontz Intermediate Uniform Policy. Ms. Swanger, Ms. Board.
Madam Chair, Dr. Baldwin, members of the board, you asked us to gather some additional data last month, and I would like to introduce Mr. Colt Bergen, one of our teachers from the Uniform Committee, to come forward. Ms. Board tells us she's just a guest today. that retirement is starting in the next couple of hours. But I would also like to take the opportunity to welcome Mr. Reggie Bright. He is the incoming principal of Kuntz Intermediate. He's coming from South Carolina, and had the pleasure of spending the day with him yesterday with all of our incoming principals, and we are very excited about this school year. So we sent the packet out to you. There were 1,000 phone calls made on School Messenger to current 5th and 6th grade students the first week of June, and you have the survey data with your board packet materials. So I thought it would be best for you to be able to ask your questions, and we'll do our best to respond.
So, board members?
I have a question. More to the actual uniform as opposed to the survey, so I'm not sure if this is the right time to put it in. I have received a couple of emails from some parents that are concerned that one of the colors has been left off from a previous year. That would be the light blue. And I would just like for y'all to consider including that one for this next year until it kind of phases out with the actual kids, so that those children who did, have that one purchased for them and can still wear it would have the opportunity to wear it.
It's our intent to grandfather in
Okay.
standing incoming 6th grade. So it would be 5th grade. So it would be 5th grade that has those colors that you have
The other
posted
options.
here.
Okay. Is there a way, is there something on the website that kind of clarifies that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I think one of the reasons for, starting to phase that out is to, really make the school as uniform as possible, and to know when you walk in, oh, this is clearly as navy, white, gray.
Sure.
And I think that as we kind of phase it out, I think it'll be very,
Okay.
very good.
And one more, just back to colors. I didn't pull it up here, but I believe that you guys are saying that you only can wear a navy hoodie. Is that correct?
As it stands now, yes, we have a navy hoodie.
Okay.
On our website and on our uniform, we are saying white, navy, gray on the hoodie.
Okay.
Sorry, I was
Yeah,
mistaken.
we had discussed that last time. So that's
Okay.
on our website, it's on our handouts.
Okay.
That it is those 3 colors that are running through everything. What is just navy is the sweatpants.
Okay.
And those are optional.
Okay.
That PE wear. So.
Okay.
Other questions?
I have one.
Yes.
Mrs. Churchill made a good point. We have received many emails concerning this particular policy. Is there a particular reason the parents of rising 5th graders were not polled?
We, in the uniform committee and in what we were discussing is that when we first started this pilot 2 years ago, we went to each of the each of the elementary schools and met with the PTOs and the parents. All were supportive of that. So this year, our mindset was continuation of, rather than pulling from, are you interested in beginning this or starting this? It was a more of a, this is our uniform policy. These are our colors and our options.
And if you look at the questions that were asked on the survey, a lot of them were based on your experiences. How has this affected your life? Has this made any changes to your getting ready in the morning or cost of uniforms and things like that? So we thought to get the most accurate and data for moving forward with uniforms, we should talk to the people that are, that have had it for 1 or 2 years.
Stacia, could you just clarify? Did it?
Yes, I finally checked the list. So after my initial conversation with
Yeah, we have to remember to talk in the microphone. It makes Mr. Pace happy.
So after my initial conversation with Robin, it only went out to current parents who've experienced the dress code and lived with it. And then it wasn't until a few weeks later that folks started asking if it went out to rising 5th graders. And I just misremembered who we sent it to and that initial conversation that I had with Robin right before it went out.
So it did not go out to rising?
Did not.
Okay.
I have another question, and I think that this may be helpful to Ms. Buchanan and me since we are new to the board. When this pilot was initiated, what was the long-term goal? Was it, for example, simply to have a uniform policy at Koontz? Is it to have it district-wide in the Robertson district? Or is it to look at having a uniform policy for the Buncombe County school system as a whole?
Yes.
I think that we were just seeing that it was, and I was not I was not employed at the school when they were starting the process, but we as a school have kind of settled on the vision of Koontz being a uniform school.
When Dr. Gibbs was principal at Koontz, that's when these conversations began. And then if we remember, Dr. Gibbs became very ill. Her school year was cut short. So the staff continued these conversations when Ms. Board came in, but it has only been discussed for Koontz that I'm aware of.
And we had a board member at that time that was very interested in uniforms. And
Yeah.
he was very anxious for us to try and see how it worked.
And it seemed to coincide with the work that they were doing for Leader in Me as well.
I have one more comment. As a retired member of the Buncombe County school system, as both a former classroom teacher and as a school counselor, I have to tell you that I strongly advocate for uniforms because I can recall many, many times where clothing students wear has been disruptive to the school day. And teachers are very reluctant sometimes to address those issues because we do not know the situations those children are coming to school from, and we are not aware necessarily of what clothing items are available to them. And the fact that you have a clothing closet and there are other options for the children helps address and alleviate that concern. So I just want you to know that I am a firm believer in the uniform policy, and I'm very supportive of it. Based upon my experience, again, as a teacher and as a counselor, it alleviates a lot of problems.
Thank you.
One thing that was important for you all, I think that I heard hesitancy in approving something that seemed like you were approving it forever when you discontinued the pilot and if you were to approve the uniform policy. So we thought it best to attach to their school improvement timeline goals. They write new school improvement plans for every 2 years so that you have that piece of time that this, if you choose to approve the pilot moving forward, you could have that every 2-year revisiting of the policy. So I thought that might give you some comfort as well.
Personally, I think part of the strength of this is the work that the school improvement team has done and the strength of those decisions that have come from the teachers and staff at that school.
I want to speak to, follow up on Ms. Pate's comment. We have received a lot of email from, they just send it to all the board members, parents who have concern about this. One area is, one parent actually stated that if we have a policy, why isn't it enforced? And they immediately went to the fact that some of the students, I think the young ladies are allowed to wear leggings. Some of them are very colorful, very, I guess, sort of show their individuality, if you will. There were other comments that, you know, this trying to create just a homogeneous population, and they had concerns about that. And I guess my question is, are the leggings, is that part of the uniform policy? Or is it something that the individual parent and students, they just choose to do?
I think it's more of a they can choose to do as they wish. I think part of the uniform policy is to make the base homogeneous, like you said, and make it uniform across the board and we also recognize that, you know, these are 11 and 12-year-old kids. They have very vibrant and outgoing personalities, a lot of them, and they want to find ways to make themselves feel like individuals while also being part of the group. And I think that the leggings, the shoes, you know, they can wear headbands and things like that, have let them express their individuality. It is not part of the dress code itself, but it is something that they can do to, you know, kind of stand out a little bit.
And I would say that when you're talking about the 4 seasons, that when they are wearing the PE clothing on the 2 days they have PE, that's an option. but that's thin material, and those bare legs need to be covered. So it's also a practical issue that in trying to meet parents in the community halfway, they were the ones bringing up wanting this individuality. So we said, well, if they're going to wear these shorts, and then in the uniform, it's skirts, skirts, dresses, to wear that undergarment underneath as well. So we enjoy those colorful leggings that they have. We have discussed those also being navy, white, and gray, but I agree with Colt in that it is the outer perimeter, that the tops and the bottoms are the same. And, those individuals that are speaking to, you're wanting it homogeneous, but then you've got these leggings that are showing, that was our way of meeting those individuals halfway.
One other thing I would just like to mention, and it seems like, as I recall when this was presented originally, the data, nationwide data and that kind of thing showed improvement in discipline and also academics. And in the report, I see that there has been a decrease in inappropriate language and some disruptions that you are attributing to the uniform. I guess one would argue, how can you attribute that only to the uniform and not just to the practices that you may have implemented at school?
Right.
But the other part that's blatantly missing is any academic performance. Has that improved? And I guess the real question is, how can that be related directly to the uniform policy? Mm-hmm. And so, can you speak to that?
Yes. And I'll let you speak after me.
That's fine. Yes, ma'am.
With the discipline, when we had met previously, those were two areas that we believed correlated closely with the uniforms, that when we looked back at the referrals, they were making fun of kids. So we specifically selected those two, and we're pleased to see that before uniforms and 2 years after uniforms, that data went down. That's why we chose those two. Overall, I would say it has maintained. We're pleased with how our numbers are looking at this time. For academics right now, we don't have information on growth yet, but our scores, except for sixth grade math, I think, and we don't have everything back on that, are continuing to improve. But there's so much more with academics than uniforms. It's global. It's hard to say.
And one of the things I just wanted to add to that is that's one of the reasons why we are wanting to just improve it for 2 more years, to kind of see if there is some more time to kind of dig into that and see, if we can, if we don't have it for 2 more years, we can't tell whether or not it's improving. So,
On your intermediate dress code policy, of which we have a copy, it does say no joggings, leggings, or skinny pants. So
As a, for their khakis, I want to show you my leggings. The khakis, there's that skinny pant, and these jeggings, well, they have a belt loop and they have pockets, so they're really a pant. And so those are items that we are working with the kids or with the parents. But that is one that's always our goal, is for them to also be comfortable. And that's one of those skinny pants, everyone's wearing them.
that might you might want to clarify that on this policy, because I think if you at first reading, it's an interpretation that they cannot wear the leggings, but then when you see the children wearing leggings, then it's like, oh.
Gotcha.
And I'd also be curious as to how your predecessor feels about the dress policy, the uniform policy. and your successor, pardon me.
We're just going to break you in right here.
That's okay. No, I'm coming from a school that we have a uniform policy, and in the Charleston County School District, we have about 30 schools with uniforms. And again, for the past 7 years, I've worked with students having uniforms. So, it'll be a smooth transition for me to go in there. And just like what you said earlier, I agree with you 100%. It does take care of a lot of issues that we run into with our students, especially at this age. So I'm a supporter of it 100%.
Thank you.
Okay.
And welcome to Buncombe County.
I have just a couple of comments. I think I'm in the minority, by far the minority, in terms of still having some serious concerns about this policy, and so I just wanted to express what those are. And having heard, again, from many different parents and having heard from parents on both sides and really giving it a lot of thought, the two biggest concerns that I still have are cost for low-income families, because even if we've worked to bring down the cost of the uniforms, the fact remains that you have to buy a set of clothes to wear to school and then another set of clothes to wear after school and on the weekends and so forth. So that seems to me, by its very nature, is going to cause more expenses for those families. And then again, we are a large system and we have 44 schools, and I think it makes sense in a system where you have 30 schools and many of them are doing this, but I think just one school in our whole Buncombe County school system it's hard for me to justify to myself. I would rather see us having more consistency in terms of our requirements around what kids wear to school, rather than just one school being so very different than the others. And I'm not sure how that benefits the whole system. The other thing I would say, since it looks like this is going to be extending the pilot for another 2 years, is that a lot of the concerns that I've heard have been around how the uniform policy has been implemented, and particularly the communication about it being inconsistent and sometimes feeling punitive. And so I hope that if this is going to continue, that the communication can improve, and that families can really be brought into the process and feel like they fully understand. And I think, again, it sounds like there's confusion around leggings or not leggings, and around light blue versus not light blue. And it seems like things are continuing to shift and change, and parents and kids may not know what the expectations are. And so I think, as much as, if we are going to continue, as much as we can be clear and consistent and friendly about these expectations, I would really strongly encourage that.
Okay, other comments or questions?
And speaking of not being clear on things, the PE is still throwing me a little bit. Is there a reason why it's saying, I get that it's optional, but it also states that it has to be purchased through Kuntz. My concern is that the sweatpant is $14 and $17. I like to shop, but I'd be struggling with paying that much for a pair of sweatpants. And then the hoodie is $18 to $20. So if somebody chooses not to wear that, but it's cold, are they then allowed to go back to wearing their basic hoodie? And I guess they can't wear sweatpants. I don't see that listed.
It is so that needs to be clarified. The shorts and the top that are $6.50 each
Yes.
is what Kuntz provides. That navy hoodie and bottoms, or the white and gray hoodie, if it does, no logo, they can get those anywhere.
Okay. So for PE, they can wear the hoodie that they would wear on their non-PE days. Okay. Sweatpants. Do they have to be purchased by Kuntz, or can they be, okay.
We're just offering them, this is what we offer, and these would be our prices.
Okay.
But we can clarify.
Yeah, I think that would be something that would be of interest to your school improvement team, to clarify some of these gray areas.
Because I see the optional wear for PE days only purchased through Kuntz. And again, that's what my concern was, is that I saw the sweatpants and the hoodie, and it seemed like it was very strict as to what they were allowed to wear.
Timing now that we're seeing this, because coming to you first, then we put this within our enrollment packet and what we'll be putting out there. So the timing is really perfect that we can clean this up.
Okay. And then can you tell me again the number of people that phone call went out to?
She did.
Over
1,000.
1,000. It was over 1,000 phone calls, it was 1,100.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't, 1,000 is fine. But, so my question on that then is, so the phone call, there's 1,000 people that were sent out to, so that wasn't all just rising sixth graders. So am I correct to assume that you also pulled the sixth graders that were going on to the middle school?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So originally, my understanding was that it was the rising fifth graders and the rising sixth graders. But when in fact it was the rising
Sixth graders.
Sixth graders and going on to middle
The
school.
current 16, 17 Kuntz students.
So it would be difficult to separate those out of school messenger. And they wanted to make sure that the students had experience with it to get that input for you all.
And the questions that y'all came up with were designed for, and I should have checked my email. There's my apologies for trying to rely on my sad memory. So the questions were crafted for people who've lived through it and experienced it. And that should have been my first red flag, that, rising fifth graders wouldn't have been able to answer the questions because they were tailored to people who had already been through it for a year or two.
So you said 1,100, roughly 1,100 calls were made.
It was everyone, so every student has, and some of the students have multiple numbers in their profile. So the calls went out to 1,141. However, about 100 were blocked numbers, and then a school messenger saying that another maybe 300 had an unknown problem with the call going through. And so about 555 people picked up the phone, and then of those, maybe almost 300, almost 300 actually took the survey. The rest hung up the phone. In English, yeah. And then the Spanish was, I believe, over 200, and about 51 people actively picked up the phone and took the survey.
So that's where I was going. The actual answered the phone, somebody live on the phone, you said about 500, and we got, 157 responses, is that about right?
Oh, we have more, for English, it was almost 300
Almost
people
300.
totally complete.
Yeah, and 51 responses. Let me add that together in my head. It's over 300.
Too hard, yes.
Yeah, it's a
But
little
yeah, 555 people had the opportunity to take the survey.
And what's the enrollment in the school?
704.
That makes sense.
Okay. I'm going to call the question, and
Madam Chair, I haven't had an opportunity to
you've
speak.
done that to me all day. You go right ahead,
I
Mr.
have a
Grant.
question for Dr. Baldwin and Ms. Swanger. Because you don't have a motion on the floor, correct?
That is correct.
How problematic would it be, and I'll ask the question then tell you why, how problematic would it be for us to approve this for 1 year? And I'll tell you why. I've sat here today listening to very, very intelligent people, and I'm confused. I can only imagine parents, and I support this. Dusty Pless and I were the two that spent a lot of time with uniform folks I believe in this. I'd like to see us do this with more places and more schools in our system, but I don't want to force that from the board. I think the thing I liked about this was that it came from the school to us initially. But Dr. Baldwin and Ms. Swanger, my question would be, I would feel more comfortable supporting this for 1 more year with a real emphasis on a couple of things. And one, cleaning up the communication and making sure we do a better job as a system of, my perception today is we have dropped the ball, and that's us. That's this board, that's all of us. We've dropped the ball a little bit on how we've gotten the information out and in with the survey, with a whole lot of it. And I would feel more comfortable supporting 1 year unless that's more problematic than positive. So my question would be to either or both of you, your thoughts on that.
It shouldn't be a problem from our end. Our schools will be revisiting their school improvement plan next summer, But we would need to back it up so that we would have the correct data with the correct students to bring to you in May, or probably April, before we go out and recruit. Because I think adding to the confusion is the message that we're going out when we go into those elementary schools and get them excited about coming to that intermediate. So we can make that happen if the board is more comfortable with that. Gives an incoming principal time to see it in action. We can just up our timeline if that makes the board more comfortable.
I would just present that, and I may be the only one. Dr. Baldwin, do you have some different thoughts on that? I don't want to put new principal having to deal with this. If it's more problem, and I want you to be honest with me, if it's more problem than looking at it for 2 years, I'd be okay with that. But I'm just wondering if we might be better served that way.
Well, I'm going to address it from just standpoint of pilots across the board, because this is uniform pilot. We've got a pilot for an A+ art program in one of our schools. We've never been able to expand, and it is tremendously successful. Dual language, immersion, that's been a strong passion, but as strong frustration as anything in this school system for me as superintendent. Outstanding results. Just looked at data that came in. I'm not too far off the soapbox here, but data that came in that will just floor you in terms of the success of academic progress and growth in those classes compared. But yet we have it only in 3 districts. So I would say that for the success of a pilot, period, number one, it has to come from internal, and that's what clearly this came from. This came from a unified lock arms, faculty and staff at one particular school. This is what we want to propose as a pilot, and we take on the responsibility that comes with that. And then second piece is my experience with any pilot, communication is top of the line. And I agree with you, because I've sat here and gotten confused myself. I think there's an advantage in that Ms. Board, this is I don't mean this in a negative way, but I think there's an advantage for that year to have just a fresh set of eyes, especially from someone that has had some previous experience with it, because this was brand new for us. And then I do think that we have an obligation as a board and as a superintendent and our central office to decide if it's that good a pilot, then how are we going to expand this? Because it does. If it's that good and giving that good results, if I simply live in the North Buncombe district or Irwin district or Inca district, why don't I have an opportunity for that? So I agree. I think 1 year would in my opinion, administratively, the 1 year would give this board very appropriate data to make those type of decisions.
Madam Chair, if you're calling for a question, then I would move that we adopt the proposal, but rather be adopted for 1 year as opposed to 2. That would be my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion with the change? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay.
You want a hand show to make sure you got it?
Well, I
think
believe
it's
I
pretty
got
clear.
that pretty clearly. I just want to, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We were,
Be glad to work closely and continue the work that they've started and just take it to a new level. But we do need to make sure that communication is clear for everyone. We've got staff here. I'd like to thank staff for being here and a parent. That will help them begin their next
Right.
cycle.
right, and to encourage your school improvement team to look at that document and make some changes, in the document for clarity. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. We're ready to move right along here. Now we're moving to the consent agenda, and we have moved the personnel report to after our closed session. So at this time, the consent agenda has approval for electronic W-2 consent forms for Ms. Frisbee. Y'all don't care about the rest of the agenda? And enjoy your retirement. Buncombe County Government's map of Asheville City Schools district boundaries. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? At this time, we will move to closed session, and then after closed session, we will return to open session and report on the results of closed session.
Madam Chair, do you need a motion for closed session?
You do?
I do. Would you like to do that?
Adjourning?
No.
No, just going into closed.
Just going into closed.
I move that we go into closed session for the purposes that are listed on the agenda.
Is there a second to the motion?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're going to move to the other place. Thank you very much. So we are reporting from closed session that the personnel report with the addendum has been approved.
No.
No?
You have to vote on that.
Okay, we're going to vote on the personnel report.
With the addendum.
With the
Madam Chair,
addendum.
I would move that we accept the personnel report with the addendum as presented.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. Did you get that? All right. Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Sorry, guys. Too many incidents. Well, come on in, Ms. Swanger. We want us to do it again?